And welcome back to the Renaissance Room podcast. And wow, I don't even really want to get too much into it because I just feel like I have so much to say. But I feel like every time I walk away from this podcast and come back, it's like I've grown so much since then. And I think the biggest thing that really keeps me pulling back is more so just kind of recognizing the why and why I started it and why I'm here. And I wanted to really kind of talk today about why there's so much division in the Black community. When we go online and we create these online communities, right, it's based on algorithms. So, if you're in Texas, if you're in Houston, you're seeing different things. And if enough people like it and share it enough, then it can possibly get to you. But a lot of times that's not the case. Once Blacks segregated from the South and went up north for better opportunities and employment, that pretty much was the end of like the Black collective. And I think we still kind of rally and we still kind of get together. But I think overall, we're not really on the same page. I think for the most part, a lot of us live in so many different spaces. And so it's going to be really hard to try to educate and empower people. And I think for so many of us, because we do have that God, God is within us. We feel as though we have to do it on a worldwide level. And we don't realize that it kind of just starts within your community. I think the other problem with that being that, Jesus says this as well, a prophet is not accepted or honored in their hometown. And so I think you have a lot of that envy, a lot of that, going on as well. So I think that's really like the demise. And I think just kind of bringing awareness to this could kind of help people get a better understanding of what's really going on. I think so often people are like, oh, it's social media, it's this, it's that. It's not really that. I think every Black person is really waking up to this consciousness. You're entering into these corporate spaces. You realize you've done all the things, right? I'm reading this book right now. Such a great read, such an easy read as well. I love really good authors who know how to really convey their points and present research in a way that is easily digestible. Because I just don't really think that it's needed for all this complex jargon, especially when it's real, it's thorough, you know what I mean? But I think that takes a different level of writing. And I think that, unfortunately, if you go through institutions and institutionalized learning, they teach you that the best writers are the ones who use the most, complex words and they have the most extensive vocabularies. But I would just disagree. I think that the best writers are the ones who can write it in a way that is understandable and digestible for everyone, right? I think it's, I don't know if it's Einstein, could be one of those old white men, but he basically said that if you can't teach it to a 6-year-old, then, hey. So anyway, the book is called Poverty by America. It's Matthew Desmond. It was apparently on Obama's book selling or book club list or whatever. Great read. And he pretty much talked about how Black people go to school, get a good job and marry, and they still can't escape poverty compared to white households. White people on average make $188,000 a year compared to a Black person who's capped at like $67,000. So I think my biggest thing today too is when we try to rally together and we try to sit in this space from a humanistic standpoint, because I think that anytime we start talking about oppression and we start talking about, disparities such as race and things like that, white people are very quick to kind of usher in these very anthropology kind of like narratives that really try to assimilate everyone in the same box. And I think this is kind of like the price of privilege, right? I think it's one of those things where you really are on the outside looking in and everyone's saying it, but you just can't seem to relate to it and you can't sit with it and you can't feel it and you'll never know what it's like, but you want to know what it's like, right? Because you're a human being and you want connection and you want to feel like, and I think one of the most perfect examples of this is there's this movie that's on Netflix. It's The Family That Prays, right? And you have this old white woman. I don't know where her husband was in the movie. I don't even know if he died or whatever the case may be, but she's rich, wealthy. She gets older, gets to the end of her life. She wants to travel across the world with her Black friend, right? Who was Gracie's Cafe or whatever the case may be, right? She's Christian. She's God-fearing. She's obviously, she's poor to the extent of she's not as, extremely wealthy as her white friend. And the white woman ends up developing like some type of I don't know if it was Alzheimer's or some type of mental disease or whatever the case may be. And she's losing her memory. She's not, you know what I mean? And I just was thinking about just the dynamic and the lifestyle of the rich and privileged, right? For her, it was like she had so much fun just going on a road trip, right? Just like doing very simple things. And you kind of see this with celebrity cultures such as like the Kardashians, right? They like make this big thing about going to Target, or, you know what I mean? And it's not really to be insensitive and like demoralizing in regards to people who are like celebrities or whatever. But I do think that there really is something said about their cries for help, to be honest, and the cries that they let out from being a part of the rich and wealthy for like their whole lives, and how they really do forego that relationship and their relatability. But I wanted to kind of touch back on what I was just saying in regards to Black people, and just really how, bringing this full circle, when it comes to our issues, we are very quick to incorporate other people's issues. And I think for so many of us, especially right now in today's culture, it's so easy to kind of just sit in a space of inclusivity, because if you have to really sit and deal with your stuff and your issues, that's tough. You know what I mean? Like, that's really, really hard. So I think it's easier to kind of just sit and look at everything from a communal, or not even a communal, but a societal space, and be like, these are all of our issues. We're all going through this. Because if you could really sit and realize all the ways in which you are the most deprived, you are the one on the bottom of the totem pole, you're the one who's continuously coming up short. I think that would be a lot to kind of like fathom for a person, And I was thinking, in addition to this, I've been seeing a lot of guys on TikTok, a lot of these dating coaches. They've been doing this for so long, but I talk about this on the subscription service. Like, it's really time to defund these people. It's time to stop investing in these platforms. I don't think that men or women or anybody realizes, when you come online and you're talking about Black men and you're talking about Black women, and specifically Black men, because I'm using this as an example of a video I just saw, and you're always just like, oh yeah, he don't want you. If he's doing that, he don't want you. If he's treating you like that, then he don't want to blah, blah, blah. You completely continue. You don't realize it, but in so many ways, you're perpetuating the cycle, right? You're perpetuating the division that is going on within our communities. I'm not saying that some of this is invalid, but one thing we don't need, and I think that this kind of speaks to a lot of these new movements today, we don't need men advocating on women's behalf. And I'm not a feminist, but like, you low key want to be like, just stay out of women's business, because it's like, that's not what you're here to do. And I think that what social media did was give so many people a mouthpiece into other people's lives and communities. Like, you kind of see this again with white people jumping online, having these arguments or having these opinions. And it's not to say that white people don't experience poverty, but do you know that white people's poverty is not the same as Black people's poverty, right? White people, even if they grow up in poverty, they still have opportunities for better resources and better education and all the things, right? So it's like, stop trying to speak to things you just don't know, right? Like, you have no idea what it's like. And I think when we talk about stuff like this, and like, men are always coming online like, oh, if he's doing that, then he don't want you in, which I have to realize, it's like, you just like the attention that you're getting from women. Like, you just like women coming on your page and like being like, oh, he really said this or he said that. My thing with women, and this is one thing I just want to say to all women, you have an intuition for an absolute reason. Men coming online trying to really instill this hard-pressed knowledge or this hard-pressed quote-unquote advice or whatever the case may be is nothing more than a distraction. Your man got some issues. And that's the thing too, right? So this is why I say, like, men need to, we got to do better with like the staying in our place. You know what I mean? People talk about femininity, masculinity, all the superficial surface level stuff, but let's really get to the root of this. Like, I don't know how men can come online and in one breath say men have issues and men have things that they're suffering with, and men also are learning how to do X, Y, and Z, and, men have emotions, right? But then simultaneously, you get online and all you do is bash men. All you do is tell women all the ways in which, if he didn't text back within 2 minutes or whatever, these little petty things. And it's not that specifically, but it's just more so like the overall premise, the overarching theme. All you're doing is perpetuating a negative narrative towards Black men that already exist. So I think that we have to be so mindful when we come online and we're trying to, create a platform or garner views. Another thing I'm going to touch on too is the Lizzo situation, right? I don't think people realize this. I think that goes back into what I was saying about privilege. Being a person who's living amongst the most wealthy, the rich and the famous and so forth, it's kind of unfortunate because people put you in this box of like you are like you have superpowers. You know what I mean? I think about Lizzo and I think about just who you are today, like you and me, us sitting here, right? Just think if you accumulated all of this responsibility, and you have the resources, you have the brand, you have the name, you have all these things in such a short period of time. This is long gone are the Beyonce eras where artists had to really be artists. I was listening to a Whitney Houston video the other day, and she just was saying, honey, I only listen to artists. I said, I listen to singles. I listen to singers. I don't listen to people who just can't sing and just come, and it's like, is that not where we are today? Right? You don't have to practice. You don't have to spend 10 years to get good at anything. Everybody is microwave ready, period. You can get online, you can have an opinion about something and you going viral. And even though you don't know what the hell you're talking about, you know what I mean? You're not vetted. You're not, you know what I mean? And I think that's where we kind of lost the humility too, because it's just like, why do you feel as a young girl, why do you feel like you have, and like a not even just a white girl specifically, but like just anybody who's young, who's privileged and who's societal, you know what I mean? Why do you feel as though you can come out here and speak to certain things? Like I think it would be bold as hell for me to come out here and be like, y'all need to be like this or y'all need to be like that. When I know good and well, I don't experience certain things because of certain, whether it be God-given gifts, okay, whatever the case may be. You know what I mean? But that's humility. Today we don't have that. But let me get back to my point. My point regarding Lizzo, right? So my thing is this, Lizzo really kind of popped up within the last 5 years. She's not giving 10 years to, you know what I mean? She's not really vetted in this to where she really can maneuver certain things. And I'm not here to say that, it may or may not be a character flaw, but I think one thing I want people to stop doing is just assuming that these people who are in these positions have all the answers. They don't have all the answers. And I'm not saying that what the situation was or whatever the case may be was right or wrong. I'm just more so talking about the thing that we do when we objectify people. And I'm so sick and tired of cancel culture. I'm tired. You guys are tired. Like seriously, the only people who are worried about canceling, defaming, and just completely trying to destroy another person's reputation are the people who just have absolutely nothing to going on. Because if you were out here doing your own thing, you'd be making mistakes too, and you wouldn't really be too concerned about the failing of another person. I'm not saying we can't hold people accountable, and I'm not saying that we should completely forego cultural criticism. Hey, listen, we're here with it. But I do think that it's important that we kind of be real with ourselves and be like, listen, okay, what is really going on here? You know what I mean? And so, yeah, I think that you make mistakes when you come through the front door and not the back door. You know what I mean? Like when you weren't ready for that, it's going to be stressful. I couldn't imagine just my life changing in a year and I'm waking up and I'm managing a team of 15, 20 people and I'm doing all these different things and I'm dealing with people I don't really know and I didn't really get a chance to vet them and I don't even trust them. My family having their own issues. Like I just couldn't imagine all of that happening so soon. You know what I mean? And I think for so many people who are just so quick to cancel people or whatever the case may be, it's like, you need to humble yourself. You need to just humble yourself and take a step back, and I'm not here to shame anybody because I think that again, I've had my opinions. I know I released the episode about the Keke Palmer situation. I was there. I used to be someone who really was halty a little bit, just a little bit, not OD, but I was a little halty. And I think that we all make mistakes. I think the most unfortunate thing about being famous is that you make your mistakes in front of other people and then other people in turn get to feel better about themselves because it's oh, great. Now I can take all the, you know what I mean? I don't have to call myself a jack. You know what I mean? I don't have to kick myself in the butt because now you're here, you're making the mistakes. I can look at you and I can point the finger at you and I can kind of just take the load off of myself for a little bit and just not worry about my own stuff, It's just it's a very passive way in which we go about it. But yeah, I think that the division is really what's stifling a lot of the movements, right? I think that in some subconscious or maybe even subtle ways, narratives that persisted about us going back to Africa, I think in a lot of ways it was kind of about unification, and I think right now it's really hard to get any movement going, because it's like there's so much division. I can't tell you how many times I've went to places and it's like there's only one other Black girl and she's surrounded around all white people, right? And so I think you have the deconstruction of Black culture. And I think if everyone is kind of like divided and it's sporadic and you know what I mean, there's not really any unification, it's very easy to break a person down, and then essentially break down individuals, and then, obviously break down communities at a larger scale. If they don't have that psychological unification, right? They don't have that spiritual unification. They're not all on the same page. It's dangerous. And I think that's kind of where we are today. And I think, yeah, it's unfortunate. So, my thing is this. I think with anything you're doing, you need to really sit and ask yourself, right now, it's a very easy thing to garner attention, and it's a very easy thing to make passive income or money or whatever the case may be. But you really need to sit with yourself and ask yourself, who you are showing up as, that we don't need to know your personal life, right? It's not a matter of trying to be as transparent, but we don't care, but it's more so just like, you kind of want to be somewhat responsible for the things you say online, and we all grow, so I definitely think it's like we have to extend that grace. But I think that's also why it's like it's important to kind of take a step back and be like, what, do I really need to post this? Do I really need to say this? Do I really need to because I just think that we don't realize it, but in some ways we can really be harming one another. You know what I mean? And I think if you are someone who has any level of awareness to see what is going on right now in the world, especially within like the Black community, especially just like in real time, like the economy, just everything, like we are not in a good space. So yeah, I want to leave you guys with that, and hope everyone has a great day. Bye.